So the eye in Kabbalism is the devil card. So you're looking at a symbol of the devil in Kabbalism, and they are Kabbalists, so therefore it is a symbol of the devil. And then NBC, of course, is the peacock, which goes to Juno, which is the Roman version of this same goddess. And that's why they use the peacock, because of the eye symbolism again.
Oh, because there are what look like eyes on the tail feathers of a peacock, aren't there?
Exactly. So then I started going through all the different corporate logos, gas stations especially, and it was this goddess, the Venus, the Virgin, that clued me into many of the symbols and signs. Because in Austin, Texas, we have a large statue to the goddess and her angel wings. And it was placed there in 1933 by the Freemasons as a war memorial. And it's known Freemason architecture. And this stands in front of the obelisk and in between the dome and the obelisk in the capital of Texas. And to her right is a shell, and to her left is a pentagram. And these are, of course, Texaco and shell. Now, what we see in these symbols are symbols of Venus. Now, Venus is shown rising from the sea in the shell. And then when viewed from Earth, Venus makes a pentagram every 8 years.
Oh, right.
So we see the signs, and it was even the Da Vinci Code, but he never completed the story, right? You'll get the whole story in my Columbia film. So as you see there, then Texaco and Shell are both symbols of Venus, and you could go along with Starbucks. Now, Starbucks logo with the goddess, fish goddess with the pentagram over her head. This is the same symbolism, once again, of the fish goddess, but the interesting thing...
It's just like the hat that the Pope wears, which looks like the head of a fish.
Exactly, like the cult of Dagon or Oans, who actually goes to St. John, who the Freemasons worship. The idea of the Skyla, or the siren of Starbucks, is the idea of the concept of having sex with these merfolk, because they knew that there was a crossbreeding with merfolk from ancient Atlantis, but they couldn't explain how.
Mermaids, is it? This is like sea people.
Exactly, exactly.
Do they exist?
Well, that's going to be the question for this show.
Well, let's ask it then.
All right, well, that's next on the list, I think.
Okay.
So... yeah, that was the whole concept of this, and honestly, I can go through every corporate logo and tell you these things. And then I started using this knowledge to predict world events. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So, as I'm awakening to Waco. I'm awakening to the Oklahoma City bombing. I'm finding that this is all just madness and totally contrived. From my opinion, right from the get-go, I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
To have these people murdered in front of me, burnt down, and... it was too much for me. So I was awakening to this new concept of, an evil government, which many people are starting to come to the realization of. And it was at this point when they brought Bill Clinton in front of us and then impeached him for having sex with his secretary. Okay, now what they had done was bring this man of the people, saxophone playing, David Letterman loving, man of the people, and then brought him down for a crime that most people didn't consider was even worthy. And they're like, well, Hillary's kind of cold anyway, I heard all kinds of stories of this nature. But people were going, well, why? Why are they impeaching this man? Now, I myself was looking at the puzzle and saying, well, they don't do this. Many presidents have had affairs. They do not bring you out.
JFK famously had affairs with many, many women.
With George Bush's cousin. Yeah.
What, Marilyn Monroe?
Exactly. So I knew that there was a reason, a contrivance for why they were bringing this man out in front of us and making him turn purple by talking about insertions of cigars and such, that this was psychological warfare. This was the preparation of World War III. The first thing they needed to do was defeat our hearts. This was their goal. And so they brought this man of the people, and then they tore him down for a violent or a crime that no one thought was even worthy of impeachment. This was psychological warfare, and when I saw that, I said, okay, well, if they're going to bring down the man, what's the next step? And I said, well, obviously, force a president into office so that we begin to lose faith in the system itself. Now, I started to hear tales of this W.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do we have the W image? Sorry to...
Which one is that, do you know?
It should be next. Oh, no. I'm sorry.
No, we've got some more symbols. Oh, okay. The VW, yes, 10. Number 10.
My apologies. I thought
10,
it was
10, 10.
next.
No, we're not going to get that. Okay, let's just talk about it anyway.
Okay. So, as I started to...
Oh, no, that's not the one, is it?
No.
No, it's the one with the VW symbol at the top.
Well, that's their bloodlines, by the way. That way, we skipped over.
Right. There we go.
Okay, so I'm coming into my understanding that we're dealing with Freemasonry, which means we're dealing with Kabbalism, which means we're dealing with Hebrew, because Kabbalism is all based in Hebrew. And as I outlined and classified all the different corporate logos, and then I'm looking for this man they're going to force into office, I hear the rumblings of a W. And at that same time, I'm trying to decode Phillips 66. Because if I had decoded every other corporate logo I'd seen, but I didn't know what 66 was in Kabbalism. So very simply, I opened a magician's dictionary and I looked it up. And it turned out to be the number of the dark side. It's the number of the evil. It's the number of the fallen angels. Or
Klipoth, it says.
In magic, they call it the Kilopoth.
Kilopoth, is it? Is that how you pronounce it? Okay.
So these were Lilith and Azrael and all of the fallen angels that are listed in, say, the Book of Enoch. And this is what the number 66 meant. Well, in Hebrew, 6 equals V, not like Roman. So in Hebrew, 6 is V. So when I saw the 66, I understood the meaning of the dark side, and then I hear the coming of W. Well, 6 makes VV, which is W. So I then put this together, and I said W will be forced into office. And this took me a few more layers in my understanding, because when I looked at the Volkswagen logo, I realized it wasn't 3 V's, but 2 V's interlaced. And this was, of course, Hitler's war machine. Well, when you take 2 V's and you interlace them, you make 3 V's, which, of course, equals 666 in Kabbalism. And, of course, you'll see the same symbolism behind George Bush's head in the Woodrow Wilson Center, who was a 33rd degree Freemason.
Oh, right, Woodrow Wilson, another president.
Exactly. And the one that brought about the Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve. Well, we've done a few programs on banking.
Yeah, we're not even getting the symbolism of the dollar. Forget it.
Okay.
Take us all day.
So so you predicted that George W. Bush would be forced upon us, or forced upon the American people at least, by a court of law, which is what happened.
Exactly. Because this was the psychological warfare necessary to further defeat our hearts. Now, I concluded that with W will be railroaded into office, and he will be the last American president, because the next step was to get rid of the Constitution. And that will come up when we get to Obama.
Okay.
So even in Star Wars, now, even in many of our Hollywood films, we find that all of this is encoded and practically broadcast straight at us. Some believe that they broadcast it straight to us because they want us to be able to say, well, you saw that in a movie. But some of us believe that this is being broadcast to us because we must submit of our own free will and accord.
So we have to say accept it because we've seen it and we accept it, and therefore they told us.
Exactly.
No, we didn't do it sneakily, we told you. That's,
yes.
That's the argument, isn't it?
The entire 9/11 scenario was in The Lone Gunman, and the entire collapse of America in Star Wars.
Freeman, we're going to go for another break now. Once again, if you'd like to text in your questions or comments for Freeman, please do so now, and see you back here soon. Welcome back to On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers, and my special guest, Freeman. Well, I'm pleased to tell everybody that texts are now working. We've had a few technical problems tonight, as you probably guessed. Hundreds of texts coming in. Unfortunately, because there's so many, they're whizzing off the screen before I get a chance to read them. Here's a question from Brenda in Hull. Are the Masons and the Illuminati the same?
That is a very interesting question. Yes, what had happened was that there was a man, Anthony J. Hilder, and he began using the Illuminati as a catch-all phrase for all the secret societies. And so what happened now is there's a big confusion because there is the Bavarian Illuminati that was founded on May 1st, 1776 by Adam Weishaupt.
Which is an organization called the Illuminati.
Exactly, which of course their symbol was the eye on the pyramid, just as it is on our dollar bill. And this was shown in their documentation prior to it ever showing up in America. So there is a question of a connection there. But the confusion comes in when people think that because the Illuminati is now a catch-all phrase. And so you always have to explain, well, we're talking about one sect, or we're talking about the... I collectively call them the Brotherhood, just to keep it...
Well, okay, well, let's drive down through this for a second then. I mean, are you saying that your research shows that there is a secret world government that you could call the Illuminati, and that are heavily involved with Masonry, Freemasonry.
Absolutely.
That's
doing dark rituals behind locked doors.
So it's not just about power, and it's not just about money.
No.
It's about dark rituals.
Yes. Can I give you an example?
Yes, please do.
This is one that tends to strike home. When we looked at, now, America put Saddam Hussein in power. And this is known, this has been in the news and everything, that we know that Saddam Hussein was placed there by the Americans to fight the Russians against Kuwaitis and all of those, and he was placed by the Americans.